Hello. Let me show you how to design a den. I hope. Starting off strong though, we got the hot cocoa machine hidden in my main den. Grab our cocoa and cozy up because this is 15 minutes long. Starting off strong though, I wanted to show off my 4 main dens that a lot of people have admired or have also just gotten on Epic Dens before. As we walk through, you'll notice a lot of hidden details, like our friend Mr. Direwolf hiding behind the ice here, and our other friend, this guy who's hiding behind an ice cage that I made, sticking his head out. This is definitely one of my favorite dens that I've done, and I keep adding to it and changing it to this day. Little hidden fly in the ice, and tons of snow cannons to protect the fortress, obviously. Moving forward to the most underrated snow item in the game, and to continue on, we're going to show off my art studio den next. So this is one of the dens that I got onto Epic Dens before. It is also one of my more recent dens, and I continue adding to this den as well. Love adding small little detail just to change an item if I use it 2 times in a den. And sometimes the most important lesson is layering is your best friend and your worst enemy, and you'll see more of this later on. But once you get the hang of layering things properly, it definitely is a huge game changer when designing your dens. You can also make really cute abominations like this. Moving on next to my beach house den. So I believe this was also on Epic Dens. I honestly kind of forgot, but I believe it was. One super underrated thing I'd love to point out in this den is the use of underwater den items. Not a lot of people take advantage of using them in land dens, and I think more people should. I also have a very lovely habit of maxing out all my dens, and my goal is to try to max out every den that I design. One of my other favorite things about den designing is paying attention to the small little detail of things that not many people would even notice walking through. One great example I think this den shows is, unfortunately with bigger dens, you are going to have a max limit no matter what, and unfortunately there is also going to be open space, but that doesn't mean it's necessarily a bad thing. It could mean that you can work around it and add small details throughout it so it still has details in every part of it, even the parts that seem kind of empty. And moving on again, I'm very disappointed in this walkthrough because I didn't even do a full walkthrough. You'll see later on, but this has also been on Epic Dens. It's been changed around a little bit, and I forgot I put my other couch on the alt. Anyways, I still wanted to show off the little bits that I did because I'm still proud of it, although it is missing some of its details that it originally had because I was not a very smart noodle before filming this part, but that's okay. That's alright, guys. We'll be fine, chat. And this was released a day after I filmed.
Ooh, this is nice! Girl!
So I will be doing 2 dens, a non-member den first, and then a member den. First, let's start off with music.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine.
I totally forgot that there's not many options for non-member music, but that's okay. I always start off with music and wallpaper and floors first, just because it's easier for me. So my first tip is go in with a theme. Go in with some sort of idea, if you can, of what you want your den to be themed around. So I'm going for a cottage, an overgrown cottage sort of vibe in the middle of the woods with lots of nature and bugs and birds and stuff. Do not be afraid to play around with items too. Definitely put that item in that den, and if it doesn't look good, change it out later. There's nothing wrong with doing that. And back to our best friend layering. Now, layering in this game can be your best friend, as I said earlier, or your worst enemy. I definitely do enjoy layering. A lot of people get annoyed with it. I think it's peaceful. I think it's kind of like putting a puzzle piece together and finding what clicks in perfect. So there's two ways you could really start designing a den after you come up with a theme, and that's picking one area to start off with and designing it and keep moving on to each room or area, or you can kind of ping pong around. I prefer to ping pong around just because when I get an idea, I'll hop between rooms. Also, if you guys are struggling with items, another great thing is checking your shops out. There's honestly a pretty decent selection for members and non-members, in my opinion, of different plant items, nature items, and some den items as well. And every single item you see in this first beta den is all non-member. Another good tip is for trees that have like a pot at the bottom or a base, you can hide them half the time behind bushes or grass or other items outside and make it look like the tree's popping out without having the base there, like I show here. One thing I love is each den has their own unique way it layers each item, so don't be afraid to test around and experiment with different items and see how the den's layering blocks stuff and covers up stuff, because sometimes you can use it to your advantage. Now for this video, I'm not going to be clipping every single time I add one den item to this den because it is going to take a ridiculous amount of time to do so with the detail I'm trying to explain. But I did add a few things, and also I'm going to show you, for example, look at this bird nest. I would like the bottom of it to not be popping out. So we're just going to boop, do that, and there we go. Another great thing to make your details look a little bit different is flipping around your items. So I want this walkway to look like there's vines hanging down. So it kind of looks awkward that way, but if I hide the rest of it and put it like that, it kind of just looks like a tree's popping out and vines are hanging down. Now another good tip moving forward is if there's a bunch of items you want and you're not working on an area of a den already, just put them down there. You can go back and grab them later on. It's kind of like a little inventory, but not. Just showing off another example of how I layered things. I thought this way was actually pretty cool. You could do a little red and a blue flower. You could do red and red. You could switch it up. So here's a little checkpoint of where we're at right now. I layered a few more trees in, layered some rocks in. I added some more small details to the living room area. Now this tip is more or less a personal preference, but I try to cover as much space in the den as I possibly can while still making it look good. For more simplistic dens and minimalistic dens, obviously that wouldn't be a problem or something you'd want to do, but for me, I love to cover as much space of the den as I possibly can. As you can see here, it's just me experimenting with layering more stuff out in the garden area to give it some more detail. Most of these next clips coming up are just me layering things and just examples of visually how I do it. It's because I know that helps people a little bit more sometimes in explaining. Another cool tip is try experimenting flipping your items upside down. I know it seems weird, I know it seems like it wouldn't work, but sometimes it looks cool and sometimes it actually works better. I wanted some standing up lamps that looked kind of cool, so I flipped the jellyfish lanterns. I don't think they're actually called that, but I flipped them around. And I also added those coral things on the side to make it look like lights. And some more small details I added, including a little forest down here. It is not visible really, but I wanted to add it for my own detail preference. And with that being said, this is going to be my final walkthrough of the non-member den. I think I did a pretty good job with it. I wish I had a few more non-member items, honestly, but for what I had, I am pretty proud of how it turned out. And moving forward, my next beta den design is going to be member and non-member items.
What the dog doing?
Anyways, like I said,
You like jazz?
A few moments later.
yeah, I kinda started to pop off.
Moments later.
One of my favorite plants to hide in bushes and have the leaves stick out of is this one. I just think they look so good no matter what nature den you hide them in. Another really good tip is if you're lagging, do not hesitate to just and relog, because if your game freezes while den designing and you relog, it won't save your den. I'd honestly recommend doing that every so often, just in case you do happen to have to relog and your screen's frozen. At least you won't lose all your designing. Also, just showing off attention to detail and small details that I added. And when I say most of the time I come up with the layering stuff right on the spot, I just I'm like, why not? For example, this one. I don't think it looks the greatest, but to me it looks like a bird on a perch in the window, which is pretty cool.
Oh my God! Wow!
1 minute, 37 seconds later.
There's a little going down visual. Another thing, like I said, layering is your best friend sometimes. I have a beehive, and now I have a bee. I have also done this in another den, but I love using this wreath and taking the snakes and hiding them so it looks like there's little snakes popping out in a bush or something like that. But going back into detail though, this is what I mean by take advantage of the items you have. You can get really creative really quickly if you just look into it and try. And like I said, I love taking advantage of all the space I have.
2 very boring minutes later.
My next tip is stacking your items. If there's multiple of one item you're using, you might as well stack them and grab them. Now this next detail is so unnecessary, but I know it's there, so it makes it cool. Isn't that cool?
346 minutes later.
And now we have reached the point where this den is completely maxed out. Like I said, I was not going to clip every single detail I do in here, but as you can see, there's been changes throughout the video as I've recorded along. My main advice to anyone designing dens going out of this video is don't be afraid to experiment with your items, flip them around, flip them upside down, experiment with small details on a different item that could make it into a completely different item. Whether you design a room first or you ping pong around, you want a minimalistic den or you want an over the top den that's maxed out, any den style is honestly really cool and I love seeing people's dens. I would love to do den ratings one day. Just a close-up of all the small details. I wanted to take up as much space as possible while still making it look nice. I also want to add this disclaimer at the end. I am not a professional at den designing. I have just been requested by like 4 different people to do a den designing tutorial, and this is the best I've come up with. I'm definitely not a professional at making tutorials, but I hope some people got some actual advice out of this. And in the future, moving forward, I would always be happy to help someone design a den. I have also helped people design dens before. And if people actually watch this video, if you have any tips or tricks, feel free to drop them below. Anyways, thank you for watching. Go design that den right now.